Part 108. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 1081. Chapter 1068. Kill. At the same time, Abi Shenjun issued an extremely cold drink, and all the blue-red cloud flames outside him turned into a holding the ancient soldiers, and the locusts were generally pressed towards Weisuo and Dengxian Zone Mountain Gate. No one thought that Weisuo still had such an amazing background. The flesh was so violent to this extent, he even killed the Saint King Sect Master, and beat the Saint King Sect Master only to escape from the soul. No one wanted to fight Weisuo alone, and the terrifying battle broke out in an instant. Roar! The 16-headed dragon, tiger, and golden flame beast roared at the same time, spitting out 16 golden flames, and at the same time pulled the golden divine platform, approaching Weisuo and Dengxian Zone Mountain Gate. Boom! Boom boom! On the golden divine platform, Master Xuanhuan also evolved the Fang Dao jurisdiction, forming a golden lute in front of him. The head of this golden lute is completely the head of a golden divine phoenix, and the lute is also full of divine phoenix tail-like patterns. Once the magical avenue of this strange road emerged, it was actually played like a real pipa. Every time it sounded like a sword, it resounded through Tianyu, shooting out an amazing divine light, entwining itself. The rule of vitality was decapitated towards Weisuo and others. What? Sect Master Zhongtian Zilei, whose head was cut off, didn't know what magic bullet he had taken. The head that was cut off grew up, but there was no hair, and the newly grown skin was bright red, and it looked half like a person, half like a ghost. Very shocking. At this moment in the crazy shouting, he also desperately turned out a spear formed by thunder and lightning, just like a dragon condensed by lightning, struck Wei directly, all the way to thunder. The sound rolled like hundreds of spring thunder rolling in the air. Kill. The bone-bearing prince is also drunk. The pale white brilliance with his rule of vitality manifested in front of him. It turned out to be a tree with white bones and a time that he could not breathe. A huge white bone flower with a height of more than one person bloomed on this big tree of white bones, and soon faded, forming a bone fruit, which broke away from the tree body, like a meteorite, and suppressed in the direction of Weisuo and others. The breath bursting out of this famous Xiandanen instantly turned the whole world into boiling. Countless brilliances vanished in the void, and various cloud and vitality laws collided in the air, forming an unimaginable gorgeous glow. Although it was dark at this time, all kinds of gods shone to heaven and earth, and within 1,000 miles around Dengxian city, it was even brighter and brighter than day. A famous Xian mighty, like a demon coming from the ancient times, appeared incomparably tall among countless huaguang. Oh my God! He even passed the missing month to so many people. All the monks who watched the battle around Dengxian city were at least 2,000 miles away from Weisuo and the god of fire territory, but the huge breath of these gods' great powers still made nearly half of the monks tremble to almost lie on the ground, but among them most of the people still couldn't help but exclaimed in horror. Buzz! Weisuo also responded instantly. Pieces of amazing divine light manifested in the void. Especially at the same time, not only Weisuo and Li Freehand, but also Feng Wukang, Yu Huangran, etc., all played out the missing months at the same time. The impression is that a group of people throw out a round of grey and black meniscus at the same time. Boom! The sky shone brightly and darkly again. All kinds of shinwei played by the two sides collided together. A huge gap was formed in the sky. The middle zone between the two shinwei collisions, the forests and hills below, all instantly shook into fly ash and appeared on the ground. A deep chasm. All the monks watching the battle could not see the victory or defeat at this moment, because all kinds of violent heaven and earth vitality and huaguang recoiled out, swept all heaven and earth in an instant, obscuring the sight. Laugh. A clear silver line rushed out of a glorious tide. The silver divine light and the red glowing light flashed on Weisuo's body. With the flesh alone, he broke all the turbulent power in front. Behind him were 6 people including Ling Longtian, Han Weiwei, Ji Ya, Shui Ling Nangong Yuking, and Yin Liwa. Boom! Boom! At the moment when he appeared, 2 huge waves of vitality burst out from him, and the Dengxian jurisprudence manifested in front of him. At the same time, thousands of flying swords made a violent sound of breaking the sky, and the sword was skyward. In his body shape became a very huge sword array. Sushenxiu, Wang Wei, what do you say? My corpse sect and Haixian sect are also the sect of your Dawa League, and these people are not monks of the Yunling mainland. You are not in control. At this moment they have lost their fair gambling with me, but they were angrily angry and directly shot. Do you, as monks of the Yunling continent, want to join in with them? A strong figure appeared, and Wei Suo immediately agitated the true element, and directly made a huge voice to Sushenxiu and Wang Wei, who were standing in the sky on the far side. Now with Sushenxiu and Wang Wei, it is already equivalent to tearing the face, so Wei Suo is rude to Sushenxiu and Wang Wei, and directly force the two to express their views. This is my personal grudge between you and me. What is the monastic world of the Dawa League and the Yunling continent, and I will leave immediately after I kill you. Sushenxiu and Wang Wei's face changed slightly, but before the time had come, the voice of the King of Fire Territories was revealed again. At the same time, the boom, 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 3 groups of powerful breath, showing a 3-legged posture, respectively revealed in the sea formed by various broken powers, divided into 3 directions, and divided Wei Suo Ei was in the middle. These 3 groups of huge breaths are the King of the Fire Territory, the Prince of Xuanhuan and the King of Abi. Old man, you say that this is my personal grudge with you. Do you dare to fight me alone? Wei Suo stretched out his hand and sacrificed the book of life and death. At this moment, there were many powerful gas engines erupting in the direction of Dengxianzong Mountain Gate and the side and rear of the group of Wei Suo. Another piece of gleaming tide of light bursting up from below. It doesn't matter, but Prince Abi and Prince Xuanhuang have no need to deal with the rest of you at all. I can tell you that there are many people coming from Yahua family and Dahan Palace. You are really strong, but the strength of these people around you is not enough. The secret technique of the Nether Earth sect is enough to temporarily trap Yuanyan ancestor. If you can persist for a moment, you can help the rest to collect the corpse. The god of fire territory evolved in front of him, and the blue, red, and white magic fire twisted in front of him numerous mysterious rules of vitality, but in front of him formed a blue, white, and red magic fire spear. Hakaka. The power of the law of the Xuanhuo lance didn't dare to touch even the Fire King, but hovered in front of him, and the void around the Xuanhuo lance continued to make a cracking sound. The power of the law of this magic fire spear seems to melt everything, even the void can penetrate. This is the personal grievance of God of Fire Territory and Wei Suo, and the rest of the Taoists. Don't do it. Sushenxiu and Wang Wei finally intervened, and Deng Xianzong's surroundings were even more disordered at this moment. The earth-shattering explosion sounds. It seems that Deng Xianzong's Big Ban has been launched, and countless monks have been involved in this battle. Humph, Wei Suo's expression was even colder. Although Sushenxiu and Wang Wei appeared to be publicly involved in this battle at the moment, to prevent the battle from proceeding, and to let the Fire Domain King and him stand alone, the two didn't even care. Abi Shenjun and Wanhuang Gongzi, instead of blocking others, actually caused the situation that the Fire Territory King, Abi Shenjun, and Wanhuang Gongzi besieged him. Old man, believe it or not, I will immediately hit you depressed and vomit blood. At the same time, with a cold hum, Wei Suo once again launched the whole virtual footwork, and the power of the two gods Xian drove everyone to the god of fire. At this moment, Han Wei behind Wei Suo winked at Wanhuang. Wanhuangzi had some mischief devices, and he didn't dare to mobilize all the mighty powers. At this moment, Han Wei's eyes suddenly understood. He didn't attack Wei Suo, but just waited for the next shot of which goddess. Is it? Both Abi Shenjun and God of Fire Territory also sensed the abnormality of Xuanhuan Prince, and both of them thought Han Weiwei was a witch goddess, so at this time, both of them simultaneously made a violent laugh buzz. Wei Suo tried his best to urge the Book of Death, and the overwhelming blaze of light hit the God of Fire. But at this moment, a huge air machine suddenly bloomed in front of Han Weiwei. Han Weiwei was right behind Wei Suo at this moment, an expression that seemed to finally wait for the opportunity. Does this guy actually put any powerful magic weapon on Ao's body? Or is she already equipped with a powerful magic weapon against this guy? Wan Huangzi couldn't help but stunned, because I can feel that in the huge gas machine that Han Weiwei suddenly metamorphoses, there is a terrifying Xianwei shock. I want to see who vomits blood. 2 fire dragons condensed into the Fire King's eyes flew out of the eyes of the Fire Domain King, but they didn't play. They just looked at Wei Suo with a sneer. What? But his smile froze instantly, and the laughter suddenly turned into a horrified exclaim. The huge gas engine in front of Han Weiwei exploded in an instant, and the endless immortal light surged out. The unimaginable huge power made the whole world seem to mourn. But this fairy light did not hit Wei Suo, but the tail of a comet swept across the sky and swept towards the Fire King. How is it possible? Master Xuanhuan and Abi Shenjun, who were also laughing violently, even jumped in the void, and the soul of the almost rushed out of the heavens. Click. The 2 dragons in front of the God of Fire Territory and the handle seemed to be enough to penetrate Wei Suo's amazing body. The magic fire spear coagulated by the realm of the realm shattered instantly. His body fell back and forth in the void, and the countless light lines behind him burst like crushed into the void, but a crystal fairy light still swept on him. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 1082. Chapter 1069. Boom. At this time, the entire Dengxianzong mountain gate was a huge earthquake, and a large piece of glazed fragments of Huiguang flew in the sky. The entire Dengxianzong several heavy mountain protection restrictions were broken at this time. A fiery white ray of light was shot from a hole in the gate of Dengxianzong, sweeping in the air, and the 2 powerful old men could not escape, and were instantly shot into fly ash. On the other side, a white light curtain swept through the void for hundreds of miles, and there was a huge divine power in it, as if someone was holding a huge monument to beat the world, the bone, and Zhongtian. Sect Master Zili is gathering together, looking extremely nervously at the heaven and earth swept by the white light curtain. Among the heavens and earth swept by the white light curtain, it seems that the Yuanyan ancestor is trapped, and the rest of Wei Suo's people seem to be invincible, and they first retreated to the mountain gate of Dengxianzong. The rest of the people seemed unharmed, but Feng Wukang did not know what powerful weapon was hit. The left abdomen was completely penetrated, and there was a flash of light inside, which made his wound unable to heal for a while, and the injury was not light. At least hundreds of monks were approaching towards the gate of Dengxianzong, and some of the extremely gloomy old people waved outside the body with a powerful energy wave that was no less than that of divine profound power, and apparently sacrificed powerful inheritance instruments. Zantai Linglan's void golden girder looming in the rickety sky is now dueling with Yahuang. Sushengxiu and Wang Wei are approaching Dengxianzong mountain gate quickly. A huge golden holy sword outside Wang Wei is chopping towards the front. It seems that he wants to kill hundreds of monks and Wei Suo who attacked Dengxianzong mountain gate. People from one side are temporarily isolated. But at this moment, time seemed to be still, and everyone stopped. This is a scene that makes everyone thoroughly horrified. A crystal light like the tears of the Fairy King swept through, and half the sky was swept open. In every crystal light, there seemed to be a horrible infinite law flowing. Every crystal light, all seemed to be the extremely magical light inspired by the true immortals, and the power of attacking against the sky. The Fire King shouted and flew backwards. The dragon formed by the 2 avenues and the more astounding avenues condensed, it seemed to be enough to pierce the void, and the spear instantly broke into dozens of pieces, which was fixed in the sky by the immense power, and then directly turned into fly ash. Poof! Dozens of crisscross crystals seemed to be only able to touch the edge of the body of God of Fire territory. The evasion speed of God of Fire territory at this moment is also unimaginable. It seems that even the escape method has evolved out of the avenue, and there are countless patterns behind it that grow like vines. However, a dozen light patterns appeared immediately on the Fire King, and an unimaginable power exploded in his body, and his body split into 3 segments directly in the air. What kind of power is this, just sweeping the edge, so that the body of this incomparable Fire Domain King is broken into 3 pieces? Ah! What's going on? It's only Wei Suo who sent this blow. Countless people were shocked, and the cultivation of God of Fire territory was the highest among all the powers on the scene. Especially the evolved 3-color God Fire Lance gave the impression that even Wei Suo's extremely powerful flesh could be worn with one shot. It can deter a continent, especially at this time. The 3 gods of the Fire territory, Abi God and Xuanhuan Sun, are standing. All those who can see the situation at this moment think that Wei Suo is no longer strong and cannot have a physiology. People joined forces to kill. But no one thought that a single war book could cross 2 continents, causing the fire gods in all directions. In one face, even the powerful supernatural powers of the 5 great powers of Shenqian had no time to show. Was directly hit into 3. If the god of fire territory is like the Holy King sect master, and Weizhuo was defeated by Weizhuo under the war, it may be acceptable to everyone, but in this case, it seems like a real god king. It just came, but it was randomly cut into 3. This situation is too shocking, too unacceptable. Even Han Weiwei completely froze himself. Both the Emperor Xinjing coffin and the fairy tear canister were suspended in front of her. At this moment, the world's horrifying gas machine had disappeared, and only the glory of the Emperor Xinjing coffin and the fairy tear canister itself was circulating. It's developed now. The old man in green robe also froze, making a direct voice, not knowing what he was talking about. Come again. Wei Suo's heart was instantly filled with ecstasy, and at the same time he shouted at Han Weiwei. Han Weiwei pretends to be a witch goddess and uses the emperor's heart crystal coffin to excite the fairy tears. This is the deepest piece he ambushed, and also his last heritage. The last trick. If this last trick can't work, then this I am afraid that there will be more and less fierce fighting. And the last variable, the biggest variable, is how much power of Emperor's heart crystal coffin, and whether it can excite the fairy tears enough to kill the fire domain. Now, this answer has been revealed. Although God of Fire territory has even evolved to escape from the avenues of escape, he has not been able to kill the King of Fire territory in one blow, but this blow has already made him directly into 3 shots. And there are still flashes of glory on the Emperor's heart crystal coffin, and the power inside is not completely exhausted. Perhaps there may be a blow, or even more than a blow. Oh, you! At this moment, the most terrified nature is the son of Xuanhuan. He never imagined that the witch goddess would hit back against Ge and shoot at himself. Under Weizhuo's roar, Han Weiwei shook his body, almost subconsciously, and once again a real element permeated into the Emperor's heart coffin, and the Emperor's heart coffin and fairy tears, as if connected together, were shocked again. She is not a witch goddess. Ah! The monks in all the other places have completely stopped, and their souls feel suffocated. This is a scene that cannot be described by words. In the void, the 3 kings of the fire territory are beaten around countless marks, and they are reunited and reorganized, and they still fly back and forth in the air. It's like breaking through a piece of void and evolving a powerful law of vitality. The magical power is unimaginable, but his magical power is once again completely suppressed by the magic power of Wei Suo and the fairy light that Han Weiwei played in front of him. In the edge of Jingguang, the body that had just gathered was broken up again, but instead it broke into 5 pieces. Pieces of qi and blood and Xuanhuan Kai sprang out from the break of his body, just like the same circle of blades chopped out in the void, bringing out a violent sound explosion that made the eardrums to be punctured. Yes, the goddess of witches and the son of Xuanhuan are on my side. You have all been cheated. Wei Suo directly uttered a huge sneer. I. At this moment, the mind was shocked too much, and the young master Xuanhuan, who had not yet fully reacted, heard the sneer of Wei Suo, and suddenly he was trembling. What? Countless blue-red flames burst out again outside the body of Abi God, forming countless gods holding ancient soldiers and ancient gods, and surging toward Wei Suo and others, while at the same time, he was directly transformed into more than 10 blue-red streamers. Directly madly escaped. Hello, at the same time as the blow, the brilliance on the emperor's heart coffin in front of Han Wei suddenly disappeared, and a series of cracks appeared, and then completely cracked. Ah! If there is a little more power, the so-called king is directly killed, the old man in green robe yelled frantically. This emperor's heart crystal coffin finally came to an end. He could feel that this second shot was far from exerting the first huge power, otherwise the Fire King God would have a full blow in this emperor heart crystal coffin, and Weizhuo, I'm afraid I can't avoid it at all, and I will be completely smashed into fly ash. What? But that's it, all the rest of them have been completely chilled. What's wrong with you? Xuanhuan, who had fully reacted at the moment, also gave a scream, and also ran wildly. Any power, being cracked twice in a row, letting no matter how strong the secret technique is in the body, it is also a great injury, and it can already play a strength of 30% or 40%. It is already good. It is impossible to compete with Wei Suo. He didn't dare to stay for a while, and he was also very clear. At this moment, it doesn't make any sense to explain that he and the witch goddess are not Weizhuo. What? The sect master of Zhongtianzai Li sect was immediately frightened, and inspired an ancient rune. A sea of thunder and light annihilated him, and instantly disappeared into the void. The Bone Divine Monarch also shouted in horror, turned into a white light, and went straight to heaven. Zantai Linglan's face was completely white, the most simple, the void golden gourd disappeared into the void directly under the shock. Since this is the case, we don't need us here anymore. Even Su Shengxiu and Wang Wei were shocked and made such a sound that they didn't dare to stay at all, for fear that Wei Suo would turn towards. They lay heavy hands and leave directly. Boom, a huge bang, one side of the white light and the world was completely shattered, and a huge ancient monument formed by the avenue seemed to rise from the sea, stood between the heavens and the earth, exuding great majesty. Yuanyan's ancestors, as young as several decades young, rushed out of it. Ah! 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 Many monks who participated in this war, such as Yehua family, Huangpu family, Great Han Palace, and even Dengxianzong, Tianjianzong, all fled around like mourning dogs. The defeat fell like a mountain, but in a flash, the god of fire territory collapsed completely. Be careful! But at this moment, the Yuanyan ancestor who had just rushed out changed his face fiercely, and yelled out. The entire body of god of fire territory turned into a huge fire at this moment, but instead it flew towards the mountain gate of Dengxianzong. Buzz! Wei Suo tried his best to launch the void virtual footwork and cross the void, but just as Wei Suo approached the Fire King behind him, the sound of a boom sounded as if he had taken off a layer of skin. The of fire burst into flames, a fireman burst out of it, and the law of countless vitality evolved in front of him, and he entered the mountain gate of Dengxianzong with a more amazing speed. Wei Suo's instantaneous power turned all the fires behind him into flying ash. This is a method of rebirth from the first order self-cultivation. The voice of Ling Long Tianlong immediately sounded. Boom, Feng Wukang's tenacious sword up, sent a blow towards the of fire domain, hit a round of missing crescent moon. But the blue, white, and red colors flashed, and this round of missing crescent moons was directly broken up. Ah, Han Wei and others all exclaimed, and another round of missing impoverished moon was shot from the side, but it was Li Freehand, and the fireman transformed by the fire domain king was cut into two, but the fire domain the king screamed loudly, but there was no slight pause, and he forced forward, and instantly came to Yeguwei and Yes Yaozheng. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 1083. Chapter 1070, You Are Over. Wei Suo's face instantly became very ugly. All the monks in Wei Suo also stopped in an instant. Although they have never underestimated the power of Shengxuan's five-fold power, no one expected that the Fire King could still exhibit in such a severely damaged situation. Such a mysterious method, even Wei Suo's whole virtual foot method could not stop it. All sounds of fighting stopped, the god of fire territory broke into two pieces of body flashing, and kept reorganizing. This one war book caused the movement of all directions, completely set off this shocking god of war. He stopped coughing up blood, and pieces of glory annihilated in the blood he coughed out, looking very miserable. But Yeguwei and Yes Yaozheng were restrained by him and could not move at all. This was only a short moment. Until this time, many monks who were completely deterred by the blow of Han Weiwei's fairy weapon completely regained their spirits and made a cold airing sound. The god of fire territories was forced to such a degree that, in his capacity, he wanted to take hostages. He couldn't help it. His body was cracked several times. Even if the escape speed is comparable to that of Weizhuo's whole virtual footwork, it will last for a long time and he will definitely be caught up by Weizhuo. Many people do not know what secret method the Fire Territory King used, but they all see it. The Fire Territory King knows that Wei Suo will not let go of his enemy, and he desperately tries to escape when he can't escape. Into the mountain gate of Dengxianzong, which had broken the mountain formation, and hijacked the hostages. Let them go, I will let you go. There was no nonsense in Weso, and he made such a sound towards the Fire King. You calculated me with conspiracy and scheming, which caused me to lose, so you want me to leave, you think too simple, the voice of God of Fire Territory roared like countless fire. It's nothing to fight for self-cutting to practice the secret method, but there is a supernatural power, but it is too late to perform, and he was forced to such a situation, making him extremely suffocated. So what do you want? Wei Suo still didn't have any nonsense, and looked at the Fire King God coldly. Turn over the ancient Saint King Sutra, and at the same time cut off the body. God of Fire Territory looked at Wei Suo sneered. What? All the monks around Dengxianken were in an uproar. Before the battle between Wei Suo and the Holy King sect, everyone can see that the Eternal Holy King is a strong law against the sky. Even if you can't go further in understanding the heaven and earth, you can also refine the flesh to the supreme. Divine soldiers, this is the road to saintly sanctification in ancient legends. In ancient times, there have been kings who specialize in this kind of tactics, and their fighting power is no less than that of other gods of the same era. Supreme in the world. A monk of this level of Wei Suo cuts his body once, and does not know how much energy he needs to lose. Will Weizhuo agree to such conditions? All the people were waiting for Wei Suo to express their views. Even the witch goddess in the palace of Dengxianzong heard very clearly. Through the previous dialogue, the Golden Queen also knew what was happening now. Will he agree to this condition? The nun is not his companion. The thought appeared in the mind of the witch goddess. Is this all your conditions? Wei Suo didn't express his position immediately, but looked directly at the god of fire territory, and said coldly, I don't like bargaining with people. If I have the conditions, I will finish it all at once. Wei Suo's expression made the god of fire territories stagnate. He wanted to say, since that is the case, then you also handed over that extremely immortal soldier, but when Wei Suo was coldly swept away, he couldn't help but be in the heart. Han didn't dare to say the sentence, fearing that he would completely touch Weizhuo's bottom line and let Weizhuo kill him here at all costs. And he didn't even know the specific relationship between the brothers and sisters of the Ye family and Weizhuo, but he could see that they were relatives and friends of Weizhuo, but he didn't know how important the two were to Weizhuo, because Weizhuo's the few Taoist companions were beside him, and it was only then that he could not find a chance to be held hostage. There are only these two conditions, and there are no other conditions. The Fire King, who was afraid to touch Weizhuo's bottom line, made a sound. As long as you agree to these two conditions and let me leave safely, I will be on their way. Okay. I can promise you these two conditions, Weizhuo nodded and said. What? Weizhuo's voice surprised all the monks around Dengxian city, including the witch goddess. No one thought that Weizhuo promised to be so decisive and so simple. Well, God of Fire Territory's two bodies have been completely reorganized at this moment. The fire on the body slowly disappeared, and the facial features were hidden, but the eyes were narrowed, and I didn't know what to think. You let them go first, and I will keep my promise and let you leave. Weizhuo looked at the Fire King and continued quietly. Joke, no matter how credible you are, I can't believe you. The God of Fire Territory suddenly sneered, you will meet my two conditions first. Release them. You are so powerful, you hijack the weak, and you are not afraid to be recorded in the classics, ridiculed by all ages. Fen Wukang stepped forward and approached the Fire King. Since you want to take hostages, then you can take hold of me, and I will exchange with them. Oh! Fire King God's eyes flashed, but he thought of something like that. He reached out and waved a glory, blocking Fen Wukang stepping forward, and at the same time looked at Han Weiwei and Ji Ya and others, and smiled coldly. If you want to exchange these two people, you are not qualified. If you want to exchange them, his buddies will exchange them. Crypto merchant, this person will definitely not want you a trick and let you cut some self-cultivation to be so simple. Ling Longtian's voice came coldly into the ears of Weizhuo and others. Since you are so affectionate, I will use this point to deal with you. Even if you cultivate to be noble, with one person, it is impossible to cope with the supremacy of the fire and the cooperation of many powerful people. Ling Longtian speculates there is nothing wrong with it. At this moment, the king of the fire territory has already done his calculations and is ready to eat. As long as Weizhuo cut his body once, it may be difficult for him to keep up with his escape speed. When he leaves, he will try to take away another person beside Weizhuo. When it was time to force Weizhuo to save people, he went alone to the fire area of his Liuhuo mainland, relying on the extremely strong prohibition and some of Weizhuo's hostile forces. He could start another battle and wipe out Weizhuo completely. Yin Liwa, what are you doing? At this moment, Ji Ya and others suddenly exclaimed, and Weizhuo also changed the color of the horse slightly, and a sigh of evil spirits went toward the Yin Liwa. Yin Liwa broke away from him, Ji Ya and others, and flew towards the Fire King God. Boom! Yin Liwa inspired the blue ancient oil lamp and struck out the missing moon with all her strength, blocked Weizhuo Xuan's shameful capture, and continued to rush towards the Fire King. I'll exchange them. Weizhuo's eyes flashed, and a pale yellow crystal like durian bloomed instantly outside the Yin Liwa. Click, but this pale yellow crystal like daolian was smashed by two small dragons shot in the eyes of the Fire King. Okay, God of Fire Territory laughed at the same time, I accept this exchange. You throw away all the magic weapons and Nabeo capsules. Yin Liwa. Weizhuo let out a loud drink. But Yin Liwa didn't stop, just smiled at Weizhuo. At the same time, the cyan ancient oil lamp, the Nabeo capsule, and the rest of the magic objects on her body all flew out of her hand, calling in the direction of Weizhuo and others. Don't move, otherwise I don't care about killing one of them. A look of triumph appeared on the face of God of Fire Territory. At this moment, the uncontrollable anger that appeared on Weizhuo's face for the first time gave him the first time unspeakable pleasure. In the sneer, 2 fire lights turned out on top of his head and turned into 2 crimson fire hoods, which enveloped Yeguwei and Yes Yaozheng. The fire elements on these 2 fire hoods were also like fire jade generally, the magic body can be burned. As long as there is a thought, one of Yeguwei and Yes Yaozheng will be burned to fly ash immediately. Okay. You can let go of the 2 of them, otherwise, if you do not even keep the promise of such an exchange, my husband will never talk to you about the conditions. Yin Liwa even launched a whole defying footwork, almost exhausting all the real elements of the body, came to the fire domain god. Her expression was extremely calm, delicate jade muscle under the blazing fire light, exuding the quiet jade light. What is different in peacetime is that she is now calling Weizhuo a husband in front of everyone. Very good. Sovereign Yin, sovereign, you will naturally not keep your promise. There is a trace of extremely coldness in the eyes of God of Fire territory, and at the same time, he waved his hands, and Yes Yaozheng and Yeguwei flew out into the air, toward Weisuo and others flew out, and at the same time, a red light hit the body of Yin Liwa, who did not resist at all. At the same time he also stepped out and reached beside Yin Liwa. There is Yin sect master, come with me, I am in my heart, this is absolutely safe. The Fire King God did not first understand Weisuo, but looked at the Yin Liwa that had been restrained by him very proudly, saying such a sentence. For him, the sect master Yin must be at least comparable to his extremely immortal soldier, God of Fire territory. At the same time could not help but voice Yin Liwa. You are wrong, not only me, but also the Ye family, siblings. In his heart, they are at least comparable to that extreme fairy soldier. Also, you are finished, but at this time, let the Fire Domain King be proud. What seemed to be solidified momentarily was that Yin Liwa made such a sound calmly while turning her head to look at Weisuo. Don't, just as Yin Liwa looked towards Weisuo, Weisuo suddenly made a crazy cry. At the same time, Yin Liwa's body seemed to have a chi machine that was not controlled by any external force at all, burst out. At the same time, God of Fire territory was completely crazy and jumped on the spot. Dozens of huaguang flew out of his hands, desperately into the body of Yin Liwa. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziwei. Chapter 1084. Chapter 1071. Laugh. The dozens of glory of the Fire King God seemed to imprison some kind of power, but an extremely gloomy air machine quickly spread in Yin Liwa's body. She looked at Weisuo with a smile on her face, but the light in her eyes was instantly dimmed, and everyone could see that her vitality was quickly cut off. Weisuo traversed the void, and a crystal brilliance sprinkled in front of him. It was not the crystal light inspired by the small pot of fairy tears, but it was like a real fairy tear, a drop of tears dropped by the Fairy King. What? The fear from the heart of God of Fire territories not only came from the crazy breath on the body, constantly activating the virtual footwork, and forced him towards himself, but also the Yin Liwa that was quickly cut off in front of him. In the horrible shouting, the God of Fire territory directed Yin Liwa directly towards Weisuo, and at the same time the real element on his body was again excited to the extreme, and behind him evolved a strip of divine lines, breaking through the void and escaping frantically. This. All the millions of monks around Deng Xiancan froze. Yin Liwa exchanged the 2 with herself, and then launched a mysterious suicide, so that the Fire King could not threaten Weisuo. For Weizhuo, Yin Liwa was so determined, at any rate. All these onlookers did not expect such a situation at all. The scene above the gate of Dengxianzong mountain is very sad and trembling. The fascinating Yin Liwa was shining with light, flying like a meteor in the sky, and Weisuo paused, holding her in her arms. But at this moment, a tear-like crystal light swept through and collided again with the various divine lights emitted by the Fire King. This is a real fairy breath. The vast void seems to be completely annihilated, and even the sound seems to shatter. This piece of crystal light was shot by the ancestor of Xuanhuan. At this moment, the small pot of fairy tears was already in his hands. Boom. Pieces of cyan, red and white fire rolled across the sky, and a huge red star also appeared on top of the Fire King. The powers of at least several avenues of law appear alternately outside the of the fire domain. Although this 5-level power of the divine profound Xian has cut itself into a first-order cultivation, it instantly shows that it completely surpasses the 4 great abilities of the general divine profound Xian. The strength, relying on the blockade of the powerful power evolved by itself, was able to withstand the full blow of the Xuanhuan ancestor holding the fairy soldier. God is burning the sky, its dignity is still like a real king, but at this moment his look is extremely magnificent. What? Being blocked by Xuanhuan's ancestor, he immediately fled to another direction, but in that direction, Huanyuan Yunwei, Yangzi Bird, Qingluan, Li Freehand, Feng Wukang, Yahuang Jinren and others have all gathered in an instant. Various powers formed a turbulent wave and pressed towards him. There is no need to scan the consciousness, and in the afterglow of his eyes, Wei Suo, who is holding Yinliwa, has already approached him with a breath that makes him palpitate. The king of the fire domain numbed the scalp, unable to express the panic. Even, he suddenly felt an invisible monster, with an indescribable coldness. He was approached less than 100 feet away from his head, but what made his heart even more shocking was that he shot a fire. When he hit that place, he completely hit a void, completely a void. The monster that appeared in his perception apparently did not exist at all. All of Dengxian city was surrounded by silence. Only the huge roar from the huge Shinwei collision in the air. All people saw that this real king-level power was forced into chaos in the air, terrified. It's like a real bereavement dog. What? God of Fire territory once again screamed more horror. Wei Suo was already less than 300 miles away from him. A red star shot among his fools was directly evaded by Wei Suo and left behind in one step. At this moment, he was already within the distance of Wei Suo's casting, but Wei Suo still didn't cast a spell, but was approaching him quickly. Why are you doing this? Wei Suo didn't look at the god of fire territory at all, just holding the Yin Liwa tightly, just like holding a feather that would drift away at any time. We all know you well. As long as any one of us falls into his hands, no matter what he forces you to do, you will probably agree. Even if it is a deadly situation, you will definitely choose to fight. Yin Liwa's the voice is getting lower and lower, but the voice is extremely gratifying. I will not regret being your partner in this life. Boo, Wei Suo once again sprinkled the crystal brilliance. He had seen all the techniques of the corpse sect, and no one knew better than him what kind of secret technique Yin Liwa had launched. A person who can solve the dead heart curse of the Yin corpse sect can exchange any my secret method, and I help him break through the divine profound. Immediately, Wei Suo made the strongest sound, and it was like thunder for thousands of miles. All the monks around Dengxian changed color. This battle is destined to end with Wei Suo's victory, but the voice at this moment is the roar of the Fairy King, and everyone feels the meaning contained in this voice. This is definitely a supreme, unquestionable commitment. The secret technique on Wei Suo, everyone in this battle sees, whether it is the whole defying footwork or the eternal Saint King scripture, is an unimaginable treasure, and Wei Suo is already the double Xian quaternary. This after the war, the power and strength do not know what kind of bottom it will rise to. His promise is definitely more useful than any super large door. Any super large door may not be able to give a monk a magical power. The promise of power, but with his strength, I am afraid that it can really make an ordinary low-level monk finally achieve Shenxian. Death Heart Curse, what kind of technique is this? No matter whether you want to help Wei Suo, no one is unmoved, and even monks who are hostile to Wei Suo begin to ask what this is like. Techniques. Buzz, the void shook, a drop of crystal brilliance fell in front of Wei Suo, making the strongest sound. At the same time, a pale yellow crystal-like daolian appeared on the body of Yin Liwa, sealing the Yin Hua. At the same time, Wei Suo also sacrificed the indestructible net bottle, and took Yin Liwa into it and protected it. Boom. His imaginary footwork continued, and he continued to approach the Fire King who had nowhere to go. The King of Fire Territory's eyes were almost screaming, the true elements of his body flowed to the extreme, his hair was stimulated by various rules of vitality, and he stood up one by one. At the moment, he only has the strength close to the 4 intermediate levels of Shenxian, and the pieces of divine power he can't stop Wei Suo's approach at all. A red star Wei Suo did not dodge at this time, and he was outside of Wei Suo. After the collision of Dengxiang Xianyu, he was directly smashed by Wei Suo. What? God of Fire Territory once again uttered a terrifying cry. Wei Suo appeared directly on his side, less than a few feet away from him. The creepy Fire King has desperately evolved his strongest domain, even a secret method of the bottom of the pressure box has been released, and the entire heart emerges from the chest. The little dragon of the world merged with the blue, white, and red magic fires that evolved in front of him, and once again formed a magic fire spear that evolved the laws of countless vitality. Laugh. This gun was heavily pierced on Weizhuo's body, making all people's brows jump unconsciously, as if piercing themselves. Wei Suo's front chest to back was completely penetrated, and was passed by this magic fire spear, and all flesh and blood were directly turned into fly ash. Ah, but the King of Fire Territory uttered a more frightened cry instead. Wei Suo did not have any pause at all, and at the same time slapped him on the body. As if a piece of stone had broken, the entire body of God of Fire Territory was beaten into 3 pieces again and flew back. Wei Suo continued to move forward, the Shenhuo spear passed through his chest, lost control, and flew towards the sky, instantly knowing how many miles was shot. Wei Suo. If you kill me, I will decide that there will be no good ending. You're too much against the sky, not only to cultivate far faster than all the people of the same generation, but also to have supernatural powers than monks of the same level. People like you are simply not tolerated in the world, and no power of the same generation will hope you live. You are destined to be the enemy of everyone suffers from jealousy. I have seen your results, you are destined to fall soon. God of Fire Territory made a nearly cursed crazy cry. You who want to destroy me are dead, but I am still alive. What else can you scream? The cry of the God of Fire Territories came to an abrupt halt, and he did not wait until his physical reorganization was inspired by Wei Suo's Book of Life and Death. Xinwei, Qianji Unzuxi Sword Array and Dengxian Jurisdiction evolved at the same time, and the terrifying power has been severely suppressed on the Fire Domain King. The body of God of Fire Territory completely shattered and turned into a mass of flying ash, and even a burst of divine profound energy was completely shaken. Shenxian fivefold, came across 2 continents, came to kill Wei Suo's Fire Domain King, and even did not escape, was completely exterminated, the form and spirit are destroyed. God of Fire Territory was killed by him. Why did Yin Liwa even do this for him? At the moment when he reached the mountain gate of Immortal Sect, the witch goddess was completely numb as if he had lost his mind. At this time, the message about the death mantra of the corpse sect has been thoroughly spread among the monks around Dengxian city. This is a kind of ban that can only be launched by Jindan female nuns, and this kind of prohibition must be implemented after Jindan female nuns have lost their first yin, and some kind of corpse bans are engraved in advance. This access control system is said to have been created by a Jindan female nun who was abandoned by the corpse section. After this operation, the heart will shrink rapidly, and his blood will become yin, and his heart will die. This was originally a technique created by Taoist abandonment and death, but now everyone knows that Yin Liwa is unwilling to accept Wei Suo's coercion, so she practiced this method. I'd rather fall myself, but also remove obstacles for the monks. Xinwei disappeared, the gusty wind was still roaring in the air, and everyone felt miserable. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 1085. Chapter 1072, Enemy with the World. The God of Fire Territories fell. Such a great power of the divine profound God, together with so many powers, killed Wei Suo together, but it was defeated. Who can have a way to crack this dead mantra of the corpse sect? This is said to be a ban that can only be stimulated after the ban of secret lock for the king is laid down. Many of the powers of the ban are launched together. Who can crack it? If anyone can crack it, this is a rare opportunity that can be rushed into the sky. It is really possible to achieve Shenxian. All the people were talking about that the Fire King was directly killed, Yin Liwa fell for the Dao companion himself, and Wei Suo threw a shocking price, which deeply shocked everyone. This night is destined to be recorded in the classics. No one can be calm. Does anyone have a way to break this ban on the corpse sect? But for a while, no one stood up and said that it could cure Yin Liwa. What is he going to do? Just then, suddenly some people could not help but exclaim. We saw that Wei Suo sacrificed a small mirror in the void, and then his body emerged from the infinite blazing glory, and started the whole virtual footwork, and crossed the void again. In just a moment, Wei Suo disappeared into the sky on the north side. Boom! In the sky on the north side, a blazing white light flickered away, bursting out a strong fighting breath, and then the looming white light and a huge breath disappeared. That's the breath of the bone-bearing god. He was caught up by Wei Suo. Eliminate. This powerful man who has already controlled a method can't escape. He is exterminated by Wei Suo. More than a dozen monks who possessed unique chi contemplation instruments made such a sound that immediately, as a cold wind blew, all of them could not help shaking again. Another Shenxian great power failed to escape Wei Suo's pursuit, and completely disappeared in the monastic world. In such a battle, the first to defeat a Shenxian 4 major powers with supreme flesh, kill a Shenxian 5 major powers, and then catch up to kill a Shenxian triple power. With such awe-inspiring power, who competes with each other? All the monks around Deng Xiancan were shaking, looking at the sky on the north side. In Tianyu, a figure like the sun came, the silver divine radiance lingered, but Wei Suo did not have the joy of war, only an aura against the sky, and Senhan waved in the void. All the monks who were hostile to Wei Suo felt their scalp tingled, and their bodies were all cold sweats. Now Wei Suo gives people away that if anyone provokes him, he will go mad and will be desperate. I can't directly resolve the dead heart curse. As long as I can stop the speed of her life extinction, I will definitely give a huge reward. Before Wei Suo came to the gate of Deng Xianzang, he made a huge sound again. Liwa, Wei Suo, what kind of technique is the dead heart curse? On Wei Suo's side, all the people gathered beside Wei Suo, and the lips of Jia, Nangong Yuking, Han Weiwei, and Shui Linger were all white. The qi and blood in her body are completely transformed into corpse gas. Old Lu and a group of old medicine refining men also appeared immediately, but just after a surgical exploration, these old men shivered. This kind of prohibition is now equivalent to the rigid blood of Yin Liwa's body, which has been transformed into the corpse that was usually made from the corpse. If it is not the Fire King, I don't know what technique to use before. A powerful power protected Yin Liwa's heart, and Wei Suo temporarily sealed her with her technique, so that the blood and the true element in her body did not flow, otherwise Yin Liwa had already fallen. However, this kind of transformation is fundamentally different from ordinary physical decay, qi, and blood failure, and the group of people like Lu Lao have no way at all. In addition, the section of mighty power and the seal of Wei Suo cannot be maintained for a long time. If there is no cure, for a few days at most, the vitality of Yin Liwa must be completely cut off. Someone must be able to cure Yin Liwa, at least for the life of Yin Liwa, otherwise, blood will flow into the river. Many monks in Dengxian city recovered from their shocks and recovered their judgment, but their bodies were colder. Many people began to inspire various magical instruments and spread messages. Everyone can feel that if Yin Liwa falls, Wei Suo will definitely go mad. By that time, all forces that are enemies with him will probably face his anger. With his current strength, Looking at several continents, perhaps no sect can resist. Now that Wei Suo, who has killed the Fire King, is the real God King in the eyes of all monks, and the God King's anger will surely set off an uproar. This night, I don't know how many forces were completely dismayed. All the ancestors and forces that had been enemies with Wei Suo, or this time with Wei Suo, have been completely horrified, lest we face Wei Suo's anger. Why, don't you have anyone who can continue her life? Wei Suo landed in front of the Baiyu Palace outside the gate of Dengxianzong Mountain, making an extremely cold sound. Yuanyan ancestors and others also landed, and the people of Dengxianzong began to repair the ban on the mountain gate. Ancestor Yuanyan gave a soft sigh behind Wei Suo. He knew Wei Suo's temperament, and it was no use persuading Wei Suo at this moment. The Fire Domain King threatens him that he has not succeeded, but in a certain way it is truly successful. Because for Yinliwa, or one of Jia and others, Wei Suo absolutely spared the entire world. Still no one stood up. Zongmen's technique was not originally rumored, and this death mantra was originally a technique that had been biased to the point that it could no longer be biased. Even most monks of the corpse sect had never touched it at all. At this moment, Lu Lao has released the specifics of the body of Yin Liwa diagnosed, but there are millions of monks present. Obviously no one can be sure that he can continue life for Yin Liwa. If she fell, Yahua family, Huangpu family, Great Han Palace, Nether Earth sect, Zhongtianzili sect, Tourmaline sect, Holy King sect, Huaitian religion, Huangtiandao, you will all be buried with her. Yuanyan old man's brow jumped sharply. Sure enough, Wei Suo made such a sound after seeing that no one came out. What? The situation changed, and the entire surrounding area of Dengxian city was like a complete winter. Many monks couldn't help but screamed. Wei Suo even made such a voice directly. The names of these ancestors he mentioned are all superpowers of a continent, and even without concealment, they cover both Huaishanjiao and Huangtiandao directly. What kind of background do these superpowers have? If they are faced with a fatal threat, how much strength will they roll up? Wei Suo does this, it is completely declaring war with the whole world. In the temple of Dengxianzong, the body of the witch goddess who heard Wei Suo's sentence also shook violently again, and her heart rose again an inexplicable feeling. The Yuhang continent, the Tianqian continent, the Yunling continent, and even the Liuhuo continent are all major earthquakes. The results of this battle and Wei Suo's words spread across several continents at an unprecedented speed. The result of this battle was trembling, and Wei Suo's words were even more trembling. No one doubted Wei Suo's words. The current head of the imperial family, Huang Pu, is very curious. Many forces could not stand, and the people of the imperial family appeared for the first time. The current imperial family head and all the imperial family members who had shot in this war all returned to Dengxian city, and then all kneeled down in front of Weizhuo. The imperial family is not such a superpower as the Yahua family. Under the heavy hits, all the details have been consumed. In the event that Wei Suo is close, the imperial family must be destroyed. Therefore, all the important figures of the imperial family came to ask for sin, kneel down on the ground, and even asked Wei Suo to kill them all, but asked the imperial family to make a living. If you would negotiate with me before this war, I would definitely accept it, but now. Wei Suo didn't make any statement at all. These high-ranking families of the imperial family all knelt on the ground and dared not leave. Although the people of the imperial family presented many water demon and elixir, but there was no way to cure Yin Liwa. I have a plant from the Qing dynasty returning to the sun according to the ancient records, it can dissolve the corpse gas inside Qin. I don't know if it is useful to save the Taoist prince. Half a day later, an old man in white robe appeared, presented a elixir. This plant is very likely to be useful. Lu Lao and others immediately lit their eyes and used this elixir to treat Yin Liwa. It can only delay her life for 1 or 2 days at most, and can't solve it at all, but soon, Lu Lao and others shook their heads and sighed again, said to Wei Suo. All the corpses in Liwa's body were almost completely gone, but they couldn't stop the flow of Yin Liwa's vitality. Yin Liwa's body seemed to have been filled with dead air. Do you want to exchange my secret method, or want something else? Wei Suo nodded and asked the old man directly. I am the person of the heavenly section. After the meeting of the Huaitian League before, a Taizhang elder of my ancestors also shot against the king in the Stingy Sea. We only ask the king not to embarrass us. Dare not to be an enemy of God. The old man explained his identity and turned out to be a monk of Zongmen who had been an enemy of Wei Suo before. Good, Wei Suo directly agreed to the old man. Another day later, some of the superiors of the Great Han Palace also appeared, kneeling down in front of Wei Suo, like the people of the imperial family, and asking Wei Suo to enlarge a life path of the Han Palace. All the monks who knew the news were colder in their hearts. Although the Great Han Palace also handed over many treasures, it did not bring a way to cure Yin Liwa. Everyone knows that 1.5 days have passed. If other superpowers mentioned by Weizhou are about to appear, they should also appear like the imperial family and the Great Winter Palace. It may not appear, and we are ready to fight against Weizhou. If this battle breaks out, it must be the biggest battle in the monastic circle in thousands of years. I don't know how many monks to involve. And no one knows what kind of details will appear in those superpowers. Is there really no way to cure her? Wei Suo's body trembled slightly, making such a sound, and 2 days had passed. No one can still cure Yin Liwa, and even help Yin Liwa to survive for a long time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 1086. Chapter 1073, My Inverse Scale. No one left, but more monks arrived around Dengxian City. Because everyone knows that Wei Suo has made such a voice, no matter whether Yin Liwa falls or not, the battle between God of Fire and God may not be the end, but the beginning of a more earth-shattering war. And if Yin Liwa falls, then this battle may erupt immediately. Yin Liwa's time is running out, and everyone is waiting for the result, just like waiting for the beginning of a new era. I have a way to continue her life. Shortly after Wei Suo's superficial dignity, but his hands and feet were cold, and he was unable to pronounce the phrase "there is really no way to cure her" voice, a young yellow-robed monk came to Deng Xianzong's mountain gate. You have a way to continue her life. Wei Suo's eyes suddenly appeared bright. I have a reincarnation Great Dane, and with my technique, I should be able to continue her life for a lot of time. This young man, who only rebuilt as Zhou Tianwu, nodded and said, "No, humble. Reincarnation Great Pill." Lu Lao and others couldn't help but take a deep breath. This is the immortal medicine. Not only can it greatly strengthen vitality, it can even strengthen the soul and enhance certain consciousness. Sure enough, it's the real reincarnation. The young man in the yellow robe had no nonsense, and took out a pale blue elixir, in which a pale yellow dove egg-sized elixir shone, and the elixir of elixir was very spicy. A small bowl-shaped rune formed naturally on the surface. When Lu Lao and others saw the panacea at this moment, they suddenly couldn't help shaking. This is exactly the same as the record, it is a real samsara. I must lift her seal before I can cure her. The young man in yellow robe looked at Wei Suo after seeing Lu Lao and others checking the reincarnation of Datan. Good, Wei Suo's heart rekindled hope, the whole person seemed to be shining, and the pale yellow crystal-like tullian outside the Yin Liwa quickly dissipated. Click. Everyone's eyes were gathered on the young man in the yellow robe, but what everyone did not expect was that the young man in the yellow robe stretched out his hand, and even directly turned the reincarnation of the Great Dan into fly ash, and at the same time, a glorious glory/hard against Yin Liwa. What kind of sect are you? Why do you want to kill her? A tremendously murderous intention once again enveloped the area thousands of miles away. The young man in yellow robe had just been shot and was taken one step. Wei Suo stopped in front of Yin Liwa, and Wei Suo did not shoot the young man in yellow robe, but a huge divine power had already crushed the young man in yellow robe. Give your courage. What kind of forces, even at this time, dare to provoke Wei Suo's nerves? What force is crazy? All the monks who saw the scene around Dengxian City were dumbfounded. It was really difficult for a monk who only rebuilt Zhou Tianwu to kill Yin Liwa in front of Wei Suo. In front of Wei Suo, directly marking the elixir that was useful for Yin Liwa's life extension into fly ash, and attacking Yin Liwa was definitely a naked provocation. What kind of force was so crazy that Wei Suo's monstrous murderous intention was to be first introduced to himself? I'm not a sect, I'm just a casual repairer in Qingyu City. The young robe's body was trembling unconsciously, unable to stand up at all, but still raised his head stubbornly, clenched his teeth and looked at Wei Suo. Called the scattered repair of Qingyu City, Wei Suo was dumbfounded, and everyone was dumbfounded. You, for your love, a Taoist, will not hesitate to fight against the whole world. Yes, you have such a strength, the king above, but have you ever thought about it for others? The young man in yellow robe continued to cry. Tao said, I have two friends who died in your fight when you went to Qingyu City to kill Yunghua Yingtian. Wei Suo's face was suddenly white, and it seemed that his heart was spurred by something. For a moment, he even spoke, and some could not say a word. I didn't succeed today. You kill if you want to kill. The young man in Huangbao stood desperately and watched Wei Suo roar. Let's go. But what the young man in yellow robes and all the onlookers around Dengxian City did not expect was that Wei Suo waved at him and let him leave. This is indeed my fault. At that time, because Hua Yingtian had a secret technique, all of us just evacuated most of the monks. We did not expect that he would find it so fast. In the next fight, I also tried to save everyone, and I also don't want me and anyone around me to die, so I must deal with Hua Yingtian, but this is indeed my fault. You will find me in revenge in the future. I don't blame you. No one thought that the young man in the yellow robe would destroy a potent panacea for the treatment of Yin Liwa. After trying to kill the Yin Liwa, Wei Suo publicly apologized to the young man in yellow robe. For a time, even the young man in the yellow robe stunned himself. He didn't mean anything. I was in the quiet room of Hua Yingtian at that time. The supernatural power burst out by Hua Yingtian suddenly flew out. Afterwards, in the fight, he also protected me and several other Taoists. A middle-aged man in red robe looted out. This middle-aged man in red robe originally had no great affection for Wei Suo except for awe. But hearing Wei Suo's words and seeing Wei Suo's expression, he couldn't help standing up and confirming Wei Suo's words. Is this the cause and effect that Ling Longtian said, I have such a supernatural power, but can I only watch her fall in front of me? At the moment, Wei Suo's mind was not on the young man in the yellow robe and the middle-aged monk who was making a noise. His body was a bit cold, even full of a feeling of total weakness, wanting to cry a cry. From Lingyu City to small casual repairs, to Hanwaiwei, to meet the old man in green robe, and later to meet Jia, and escape to Yunling mainland, met Yin Liwa, flashed. His life is also not easy. Whether it is to save Nangang Yuking, to collect purple fox flowers, to hold Han Xiao Ei and Jia and hostage the young master of Dongjao Resort, he is desperate to fight, and he has such a magical power. Even the enemies like God of Fire Territory were killed by him, so that the existence of the imperial family and the great cold palace knelt at his feet. He has never been bullying, and he always tries his best to help when he encounters injustice. But even so, did some innocent people die because of themselves? So that you can't even continue her life? Husband, how are you still here? You take Jia and they leave here. You know, I just don't want you to do this because we are in extreme danger. Yin Liwa's voice suddenly sounded. Got up. After the seal was lifted at this moment, she woke up and almost disappeared, looking at Wei Suo and saying. Wei Suo's body trembled, and another drop of crystal brilliance fell into the void in front of him. I've never had a heart that hurts people, but when people want to destroy me, I have to fight against it. If I have a choice, I would rather prefer a corner of the world and have no disputes with the world. Wei Suo said again, the first in other words, he seemed to be talking to himself, but also to the young man in yellow robe in front of him. But in the second sentence, he said to Yin Liwa, to everyone in the world, since you let everyone know that you can die for me, no one wants to threaten me with you, then it will also let everyone know that I can die for you too. Anyone who wants to deal with us must bear the consequences. For you, I am willing to be the enemy of the world. Wei Suo's body stood upright again, sealing Yin Liwa again, but at the same time, the powerless feeling completely disappeared from his body, replaced by a kind of experience. The fire-robbing godlike unique forest and the atmosphere of the sky are incomparably strong and hard. For you, I am willing to be the enemy of the world. Wei Suo's voice echoed in the void, and everyone felt the irreversible will, an astonishing breath of killing, which seemed to permeate from Wei Suo's body, sweeping all directions. If you can't cure Yin Liwa, this terrifying battle is inevitable. Now Wei Suo is very clear in all people's hearts. All people already understand that the people around him, for him, are untouchable counterscales. At this moment, in the palace of Deng Xianzong, the body of the witch goddess was again a heartbeat for no reason. She also felt clearly that if it was not Yin Liwa at the moment, but instead of anyone else beside Wei Suo, he would do the same. This is definitely an impulse. If you appease a few major forces, suppress a few major forces, and then rely on the worship of many sects, Wei Suo's cultivation behavior will surely go further soon, perhaps with unprecedented success. But now, he is completely going to the opposite of these forces, without any room for turning. However, his approach, such tyranny, there is some more shocking power, but it is more frightening and heart-shattering. I only hope that in the future when you and people are fighting against the enemy, you will no longer be in the city where any innocent monks gather. The young man in yellow robe left. When he left such a sentence. Everyone did not know whether he forgave Weizhuo and whether he would be enemies with Weizhuo in the future, but everyone could feel that this young man in yellow robe also understood Weizhuo's thoughts and weigh the kind of breath on the cable. I can promise you that unless I have no choice, I will not be in this kind of city in the future. If I can let all these people bow their heads in front of me, I will redefine the law. Wei Suo said this. All the surroundings of Dengxian city were silent again, and the hearts of all the monks became more and more heavy. A tremendous storm is about to blow up. In the next half a day, no one or any force has come forward and said that it can cure Yin Liwa and can continue life for Yin Liwa. There is no need to use the old pill first. Suddenly, Ling Longtian, which had never been heard, was heard by Wei Suo and others. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 1087. Chapter 1074, No Turnaround. Don't be a pill. Wei Suo's body shook violently, turning his head to look at Ling Longtian. I am afraid that not a few people in the Taoist circle know what it is today, but this thing Ling Longtian was explained carefully with Wei Suo and the old man in green robe, so he is very clear. Bulao Pil is an immortal elixir made of bulao grass and Stygian shady sand. This pill can make the monks whose physical vitality is cut off, and their consciousness does not dissipate and become undead. Moreover, Wei Suo is no stranger to this kind of immortal thing. The immortal medicine in the body of the ancient emperor is very likely to be a powerful elixir with similar functions as the old immortal. The potency of Buletin Lao pill of pills can last for 300 years. If Yin Liwa takes this pill at the moment, she will still have her own consciousness in 300 years, but she really wants her to take this pill medicine, makes her a lifeless life. Wei Suo's body trembled slightly, and his heart trembled unconsciously. You have no choice at this time. Ling Longtian didn't call Wei Suo as a profiteer, as usual. Dead heart curse is a cold-handed technique. It is impossible to find a way to crack it, even if you can break it. The source of the forbidden technique, unless you are above the true immortal, it is impossible to comprehend the rules of the energy of dissolution. Take the immortal ghost pill, although she will become an immortal ghost, but still have the opportunity to resolve the immortal ghost pill power. What, is there a way to dissolve the immortal pill's power? Wei Suo's body shook again, his voice trembling a little. He knows very well that the light of the elixir of Bulao pill is absolutely the top elixir of immortal order. The elixir of this elixir is extremely mysterious and unique. Combined, if the flesh is destroyed, the consciousness will be completely dissipated. This is equivalent to that the mind is confined in the dead body and joined together. This is also the reason for Wei Suo's physical and mental tremor. Otherwise, as long as he can keep the Yinluo soul indelible, with his cultivation practice, in the future, it is very likely that he can find a way to help Yinluo win the house or reshape the body. Yes, Zhenjiang Zianko can dissolve the potency of the old grass in the old pill. Ling Longtian looked at Wei Sudao, and the power of these powerful grasses is not composed of various vitality laws, if it is not the established law of vitality. If your cultivation and realm are strong enough to crack and change this law, such as the immortal emperor, I am afraid that you can resolve this medicine. In our time, use this immortal medicine. It is not one or two that lasts life and transforms this immortal body into a normal monk's body. And this is currently the only viable method of attacking poison with poison. Ling Longtian's voice was cold, but there is no doubt. I have carefully felt this kind of prohibition. This kind of prohibition's vitality law is very unique, and death is wrapped around her. Among the souls and wills, there is a real heart death. Even if there is any good way to take away the house, it is useless to extract her soul and prepare a suitable body to let her succeed in taking away the house. The flesh and her soul will still be extinguished. I believe you know this too. Otherwise, you must have found the tricks of looting and trying to find a suitable flesh for her in the past few days. Zhenyang Xianko. This kind of elixir, can really dissolve the potency of Buletin Lao pill? Let her be resurrected after death. Wei Suo couldn't help looking at Lu Lao and others. He did not doubt Ling Longtian, but this choice is too heavy for him. I have read relevant records that this elixir can indeed cause some yin and yin elixir to be mistakenly taken, and turn into an immortal person or a monster. An affirmative answer is given. He just said again, it's just that this elixir is rarer than the purple fox flower and extremely rare. Does anyone know about the records of Zhenyang Xianko? Wei Suo nodded towards Ling Longtian, seeming to make up his mind, and then turned around, making a sound to all the monks around Dengxian city. Yes, tell me about the records of Zhenyang Xianko. There are 50,000 inferior spirit stones. If you can give the whereabouts of Zhenyang Xianko, or take out Zhenyang Xianko, you can exchange any secret method on me. Zhenyang Xianko, Wei Shenjun, do you want to attack poison with poison and turn her into an immortal body? Soon after Wei Suo's voice came out, there was a man who had grown to the chest and was thin and dressed like a shop. The old man, who was like an old shopkeeper, walked out and gave awesome salute to Wei Suo, and walked to a group of people from the imperial family and the great Han Palace who were still kneeling on the ground. This is Yuzuji, the master alchemy master of Yuji Pharmaceutical. Someone soon recognized the old man's identity, and listening to the old man's words, he obviously knew a lot about Zhenyang Xianko. Yes. I have an immortal ghost pill in hand. Wei Suo nodded, also paying a salute to the old man. According to the records, Zhenyang Xianko is indeed able to dissolve the potency of the immortal pill. The old man said, in the records I have seen about the classics, Zhenyang Xianko is due to Zhenyang Palace. It was because of the discovery of the function of this elixir that Zhenyang Palace had a monk who used it to dispel the power of the old grass that had been taken by mistake. After 40 years of becoming an undead old corpse, it recovered. Revitalized into the original flesh. He already has no way, he wants to turn Yin Liwa into an undead. In this way, his monstrous anger will disappear. All the monks gathered around Dengxian city suddenly realized that Wei Suo now let so many people know that it is for the next Zhenjiangxianko. This Zhenjiangxianko hasn't appeared in a long time within the scope of my knowledge. In the relevant records, this kind of elixir is also extremely rare, and I don't know its specific whereabouts, but only in the record. I have seen that this elixir may metabolize in the hottest place, the old man continued. Thank you, Daiyu. It's 50,000 pieces of Pingling stone. Wei Suo placed 50,000 pieces of Pingling stone in front of the old man. The old man didn't refuse. He took it and left. The whole city of Dengxiankan fell into silence again. No one else stood up and no one knew more about Zhenjiangxianko than the old man and Ling Longtian. The atmosphere was once again extremely depressed, especially the people of the imperial family and the great Han Palace could not help but tremble, because everyone could see that Wei Suo had made a decision. Yin Liwa had no time. Now let's see how Wei Suo expressed his position. I cannot destroy your imperial family and the great palace, and I can guarantee that as long as I live for a day, if there are other forces who want to deal with you, I will definitely take your place. Finally, Wei Suo made a sound again, and everyone knew that a desperate storm was finally lifted. I cannot touch and destroy all your heritage, but I will make you go to your mountain gate and list all the resources you control, and I will pick what I need. However, in the future, you must act in accordance with the established rules of the monastic circle. If you are bullying, or if you want to fight against the enemy, or you want to fight against the enemy again, all the agreements I have drawn up with you will be cancelled, and I will definitely kill you. Wei Suo set out almost the same conditions as Deng Xianzong to the imperial family on knees and the superiors of the Great Han Palace. Thank you, Wei Jingjun. All the superiors of the imperial family and the Great Han Palace are ashamed, and their vestments have been soaked in cold sweat. This is already the best result for them. People on both sides even thought that Wei Suo might make them fly ashes, forcing them to attack the other schools together. Ganjiame, Senior Yuanyan, what do you think? Next, Wei Suo's voice paused for a moment, instead of continuing to express his position, but secretly asked Ling Longtian and Yuanyan ancestor and Jiya, wait for someone. You have revealed your reverse scale, you must be tough in the end, let everyone know that your reverse scale is untouchable, unless you fall, otherwise everyone who dares to deal with people around you must bear your anger at all costs. Yuanyan ancestors heard the sound in Wei Suo's ears. You killed the god of fire territory. Any force and power that feels threatened by you will not allow you too far from the sky, destined to be the enemy of the entire world. You can only enter, not retreat, to kill everyone. Fear. From ancient times to the present, any true emperor-level character walked to the summit with the corpses of the great power of the contemporaries. They all hit the whole world and were invincible. Ling Longtian sneered and passed into Wei Suo's ears with a sneer. Even if all these forces will be prepared for the next, you have to evade the edge. If you shout, you must not change. Now there is no second way to go. As soon as possible, continue to improve your cultivation practice, one by one. All of these sects that are against you. Next, we can go to the place I told you before, and maybe have a great chance. In the almost suffocating weight of everyone, Wei Suo stopped secretly talking with everyone such as Ling Longtian, Yuanyan Patriarch, and Jiya, and made a strong voice again. Zhongtian Purple Thunder Sect, Underworld Sect, Tourmaline Sect, Huatian Sect, Emperor Tiandao, I will destroy you one by one. All sects, all openly show the relationship with these sects and forces, and draw clear boundaries with them. As long as the interface with them is not clear, I will be regarded as my enemy. If anyone deliberately buys water demon and other things deliberately, I will be regarded as my enemy. All the ancestors who have peace talks with me, I must prefetch a year of worship. Wei Suo's voice came out one sentence after another, and the world was discolored. All the people around Deng Xianzong were trembling uncontrollably. Without any whirling, Wei Suo directly went to war with the whole world. A terrifying storm officially rolled up. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 1088. Chapter 1075, Leaving and Staying. Zhongtianzili I sect, Nether Earth sect, Xuanhuan Palace, Tourmaline religion, Huatian religion, Emperor Tiandao, Yahua family, Saint King section. These are the overlords of the Taoist world today, supergiants, covering the Yuhan continent, the Yunling continent and Liuhuo continent, and the Tianqian continent with hostile forces such as Suan Fengmen and Jin Wuzong, naturally cannot be avoided. In the past thousands of years, many great gates have disappeared into the air and disappeared in the passing years. It is not impossible for one person to confront and subvert a super section, but for thousands of years, there has never been a single person at the same time declare war on so many super lineages. Moreover, Wei Suo directly forced all the ancestors of these continents to express their position. What a strong and what kind of spirit! This is a battle destined to sweep the entire world of monasticism. Many of these super sects will definitely join forces to deal with him together. I don't know what kind of forces to involve, and many secret treasures and inheritance tools will be born. People like him have no choice at all. He is not the kind of solitary owl who only cares about his own cultivation. He only kills everyone to be completely chilled and embarks on the road to heaven. Those talents dare not deal with him and those around him. Many people left Weizhou immediately after hearing his statement, because it was destined to be a super chaotic world, and many forces had already begun to prepare. All sectarians must state their position within one day. The enshrined offerings negotiated with me were delivered outside the city of Dengxian within one day. But Wei Suo did not have any nonsense. After speaking these two sentences, he plunged into the gate of Dengxianzong mountain. Don't use Purdue God light to deal with me. As soon as Wei Suo plunged into the palace where the witch goddess was, the witch goddess shrank in fear and said such a sentence. Her arrogance and majesty had long been shattered in front of Wei Suo, and the result of this battle and Wei Suo's strong voice made her mind tremble to numbness, so that she was almost not facing Wei Suo. How much of my own opinion has been lost, and I have lost my general thinking. I promised you that I would not use Purdue God light to deal with you, but I must know your position. Wei Suo looked at the witch goddess like a frightened deer and said, as long as you let me go, I promise that our Donglei secret realm can't be an enemy of you. The witch goddess immediately said in fear. Wei Suo now has an inexplicable sense of coldness than before, as if there was a sword hidden in the sheath between Weizhou, but now the sword sheath has been completely shattered. The sharpness and radiance of this sword revealed completely. Don't believe her. If it weren't a coincidence, maybe all of us were already dead in her hands. If you let her go, maybe she would turn around and deal with us. Han Weiwei's eyes were a little red, hateful said. I won't, I will definitely do it. The witch goddess immediately anxiously defended and looked at Wei Suo, but she was unconscious and did not dare to look directly at Wei Suo's eyes, and subconsciously lowered again. Head up. Even if you are let go, it is impossible for you in Donglei secret realm to want to be alone at this time. Xuanhuan patriarch suddenly uttered a voice and looked at the witch goddess. If you don't declare war with Weizhou, all people will think that you and Wei Suo are on one side, and even in this battle, it is because you secretly played ghosts that let the Fire King and Saint King sect master defeat their side. Your Donglei secret realm will also become an enemy of all the sections. It is presumed that a sect in the secret realm of Donglei will not be able to cope with those sects that only deal with your Yuhan continent. The witch goddess was shocked and couldn't help raising her head to look at the ancestor of Xuanhuan, but she was speechless. Indeed, Xuanhuan's ancestors were telling the truth. If she did not declare war with Wei Suo, she would definitely become the common enemy of so many superpowers. Donglei's secret realm is likely to be destroyed immediately, and even if she really does not want to fight Wei Suo, enemy is just declaring war with Wei Suo on the surface. Those forces will definitely force her to do some substantive things. It is impossible to just pretend without action. As far as your current situation is concerned, I think there is only one choice. Xuanhuan ancestor looked at the witch goddess with a pale face and said, you can only stand up openly and be a fellow of Weizhuo. What? The witch goddess almost fainted back softly. You also know that this is probably your only choice at the moment. Only if you openly stated that you want to become a fellow with Weizhuo, as long as he is still alive, those people will definitely not dare to deal with your Donglei secret realm easily. Xuanhuan the ancestor said the sentence directly regardless of the appearance of the witch goddess. At the same time, the unruly old genius also directly heard the word in the ear of the witch goddess, what do you faint, anyway, what should you do? I've done it all, and he is very likely to have supreme achievements, you follow him without losing money. Hearing Xuanhuan's ancestor, the witch goddess almost fainted. I'm not as credible as he is. Now our Xiajija is tied to a boat by him. If he fails, our Xiajija might not even have a complete tile left. Even if he let you go, I will definitely hear the news that the war itself is a joint calculation between you and him, and that you and him are secretly good friends with each other. I want to take Master Xuanhuang's cultivation practice as a sure feeling. It can be concluded that you and he have both cultivated, and you have transformed so many kinds of yin, maybe they will think you and him do not know how many times they have done it. Xuanhuan ancestor did not stop, it was a voice again. A sentence came to her ear. Ah! The witch goddess uttered a scream, and her eyes were black. No, even if she agrees, how can we believe her, how can we know that she is not a false snake? Han Weiwei categorically objected at this time, it is too dangerous to leave her by her side. The prohibition, as long as she is able to circulate her true spirit and blood, she may be broken. If she wants to deal with us, we may be killed by her at any time. Once you stand out publicly to show your position, it's hard to retreat. And to show that there is no dissent, it's easy to prove. Xuanhuan ancestor looked at the witch goddess and Han Weiwei, etc., and his lips moved slightly, and the sound was transmitted separately. A few words in the ears of Han Weiwei and Jiyat and the witch goddess. Humph! Han Weiwei snorted coldly after hearing the voice of Xuanhuan's ancestors, but did not say much, but Jiyat and others nodded. And the witch goddess shuddered, her head lowered. Do you have any hesitation? Xuanhuan ancestor heard the witch goddess's ear again. For you, this is indeed forced by the situation, but you can also see how he treats his companions and relatives. Attitude, do you think that the characters like the son of Xuanhuang will be comparable to him? The witch goddess wanted to refute it, but I didn't know if I didn't dare it, or for some other reason, but I couldn't speak for a while. Okay, since I don't express any objection, it's the default. The old ancestor of Xuanhuan is an old rogue, and he directly made a decision. I know that many times female nun's skin is relatively tender, this matter is caused by I'll be the one to call the shots. In this case, we can start to go to Tianqian continent immediately. The Wujing goddess heard Xuanhuan's ancestors say this, and she almost fainted, but when she heard Xuanhuan's last words, she was stunned. Go to Tianqian continent. Now that he has expressed his attitude completely, so many superpowers will definitely not give him much time, and will definitely kill him at all costs. If we don't leave here quickly, or this place will become more fiery. The king is even more dangerous when he comes. Xuanhuan ancestor's face was completely dignified. But since we have waged a complete war, we cannot naturally go away. Naturally we must kill each one to shock the world. Jade several sect gates of Hung mainland are still in Tianqian mainland, relatively speaking, it is much simpler to deal with than directly breaking the mountain gates of other great forces. And since you promised to remove them, it is for your Donglei secret realm is much safer. When did I agree? The witch goddess opened her mouth, but this sentence didn't say anything at all. As for the statement, it proves that you have no ambitions. When did you get it? Want when the cultivation behavior is completely restored, it is then stated. At this time, Xuanhuan patriarch said blatantly. When I figured it out. The witch goddess suddenly felt hot all over. Then, after feeling her own strange change, she didn't know what kind of emotion she was. She really fainted. Are you going to wait until one day later, when she really can't support it, give her the old pill? Xuanhuan patriarch turned to look at Wei Suo, but no matter what, we must leave immediately. Okay, you have to be careful on this trip. Wei Suo nodded, but said to solemnly watch the Yuanyan ancestor and Yahuang real person. Feng Wukang said. The witch goddess was awakened by a sudden wave of vitality. When she woke up, she saw that Wei Suo, Yuanyan patriarch, and others were doing their best to escape from the sky. They were no longer in the Dengxian city, but out of the sky dome and marching in the wilderness. It is Yin Liwa's body that emits violent energy fluctuations. Yin Liwa is like a deep sleep, but the whole body is surrounded by an amazing dark air, exuding amazing energy fluctuations, like in the constant evolution of the natural world. After flying for a while, everyone tried to hide the breath, and then Yuanyan ancestor and Yahuang real person, Feng Wukang and Wei Suo were different. Where are they going? The witch goddess couldn't help asking. Aren't you going to Tianqian continent? They will go to Tianqian continent, Jie replied to the witch goddess. It is enough for them to go. They brought an ancient charm that can simulate Wei Suo's breath. Let's stay in the dark first to see if there are any changes, see if there are no one dares to ride the Wei Suo to the Tianqian continent to deal with the Yinzong sect and Haixian section. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 1089. Chapter 1076, Coming of the Killing God. All the people on the Weizhuo side left. In the eyes of everyone, all the people saw that Wei Suo passed the whole virtual footwork to Yuanyan ancestors, Yahuang real people, Feng Wukang and other people. All of Wei Suo's people, in these gods and great powers driven by the whole's virtual footwork, like a group of sunbursts, they constantly cross the void and leave Dengxianzong. Weizhuo asked all zone mens to show their attitudes, and many of the zone mens with whom he had peace talks would gather their worship to Dengxian city, but after Weizhuo showed his attitudes, he would fight with so many mainland powers. But they all left Dengxianzong, and no one knew where they were going. No one dared to keep up, and Wei Suo made a noise. Any monk who wanted to track them was considered an enemy. If he was killed by him, no one could blame anyone. And when Wei Suo left Dengxianzong, he made a strong voice again, letting those monks who were enemies with him, if they did not want to be enemies, leave them as soon as possible, or wait for him to attack the mountain gate. Don't do it. Weizhuo and Yuanyan ancestors and others appeared in Tianqian continent. They rushed to the gathering place of the sect gates such as the Mingtu sect, Tourmaline section, even the sect master Yushan sect and sect master 11 Xuanhuan. Soon, a shocking news came out. Wei Suo and others completely opened the curtain of this terrifying battle, appeared in the Tianqian continent, and attacked some areas occupied by the Yuman continental sect. On the mainland of Yuheng, the gods of Zhongtianzili sect and Ningtu sect were all killed by Wei Suo before, and the master of Zhongtianzili sect, whose head had been knocked down by Wei Suo, did not appear and could not be resisted. Soon, the news came that Wei Suo and the monks on the Tianqian mainland surrounded the monks on the Yuheng mainland. The Xianfeng gate did not appear at all, while the Zhenwuzong disappeared completely, and even the Shanmen moved to some place. Wei Suo and others and the Tianqian continent asked the people of Yuheng continent to leave all the objects and treasures and other objects on their body and leave the Tianqian continent. The Tourmaline patriarch and some of the elders of Yuheng mainland did not follow, and wanted to escape directly, but even the Tourmaline patriarch was knocked off half of his body before he could escape. In the Battle of the Broken Jade ancient territory, Wei Suo had already asked these ancestors of the Yuheng mainland to leave the Tianqian mainland. We can't think of Wei Suo's movements so quickly, he has already fought directly. He is definitely not talking about, It is really to start a terrifying battle. It was said that he wiped out the Tianjianzong mountain gate for his parents at all costs. His companions and relatives are indeed his anti-scales, anyone cannot touch. Sovereign of Tourmaline sect is also a terrifying powerhouse who has realized the avenue of the Dadao, and he has also been knocked off half of his body. Yuhan mainland is seriously injured. All the people were staring at Wei Suo's move. As soon as these news came out, all the people felt very shocked. This means that the real shocking war that has swept across several continents has begun. What? The witch goddess in Donglei's secret realm will also form a fellowship with Wei Suo. The news did not appear to refute the goddess. Even if it was not true, at least the goddess had fallen into Wei Suo's hands. There is no such thing as a witch goddess, and there was no big war exposed before. In the previous battle, the witch goddess did not show up at all. This news is very likely to be true. Based on Wei Suo's cultivation and magical powers, the witch goddess chose to form a companion with him, and it is indeed a strong alliance. And then, a more shocking news came out that the four great power witch goddess who had fought a battle with Wei Suo in the Broken Jade ancient territory, even said that he would become a companion with Wei Suo. What? This is impossible. Boom! When he heard the news, Master Xuanhuan was above a mountain in Yuhan mainland and a mountain below, and he was completely destroyed by him. Whether it is true or not, the old sovereign tells you to rush back to Shanmen to discuss matters. Now that the Zhongtianzili sect and the Nether Earth sect are the weakest, Wei Suo may drive straight into our Yuhan continent at any time. Several elders from the Wanhuang Palace were immediately exhorted. Ah! 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 Wei Suo, I'm going to kill you, Master Wanhuang uttered a howling cry. The news is clear. Wei Suo is indeed in the Tianqian continent, and the breath is shaking. He is in Tianqian continent, and within half a day, he will definitely not be able to return. He wants to fight against the whole world with one person's strength, then we will fight with him, first destroy Haixianzong. Just when Wei Suo appeared on the Tianqian continent and attacked some areas occupied by the Yuman continental sect gates, they reached the Yunling continent. The vast majority of the Yunling continental sect gates that were still on the sidelines immediately expressed their position. The door immediately showed that he was absolutely independent of Huaishan Church and Emperor Tiandao, and would not be an enemy of Wei Suo, but at the same time, there were also many monks who concealed their faces and quietly approached the Haixianzong mountain gate. Xuanhuan Patriarch, come out and die. A priest gave a black giant clock, and the monk who was hidden in the black giant clock first appeared above the seafaring city. Buzz. After making a sound, the monk directly inspired a piece of black tide-like power, rushing towards the mountain gate of Haixianzong like 1,000 troops. Who is it? Hiding his head and closing his head, he dare not reveal his face. As an old voice came out, the ancestor of Xuanhuan, dressed in a yellow robe, appeared among the Haixian sections at the same time. A certain prohibition of Haixianzong was launched, and the two purple flowers were like two swords. Generally, it is shot out of Haixianzong, and all the black tide is broken up. The ancestor of Xuanhuan is in Haixianzong. Even if the Haixianzong has been transferred to the inside, as long as the Xuanhuan ancestors are killed and the Haixianzong razed to the ground, it is equivalent to slapping Wei Suo. 6 monks who also concealed their true colors fell from the clouds, inspiring powerful powers and attacking the Haixianzong mountain gate. A golden unicorn and a huge blood-red centipede manifested in the void, accompanied by countless thunderfires and green arrows. These monks were extremely careful and did not reveal the exercises they practiced, but the power they played was very powerful. Almost instantly, the outermost layer of aurolite mask of Haixianzong broke. Puff. The ancestor of Xuanhuan was swept by a white divine light, Yue, which swept from the void, and flew out, with blood spewing out of his mouth. Boom. The mountain gate of Haixianzong shook, and a goddess of light and shadow similar to the statue of Haixianza stood out, bursting out powerful power, but this was obviously the power of Haixianzong's ban, but it was under the impact of several glory, start to collapse layer by layer. This is the end with Wei Suo. A monk with a galaxy wrapped around him appeared not far from the side of Xuanhuan's ancestor, and at the same time inspired a silver ancient rune, forming a silver light blade in front of him. Do. At the same time, there was another vigorous drink in the sky, another white divine light, heading towards the ancestor of Xuanhuan. It seems that Haixianzong has not many people left in the sect, except for those who control the prohibition. No one came out at all. Are the ancestors of Xuanhuan want to coexist and die with Haixianzong? Such power might be inspired by Shengxuan's great power, and he couldn't stop it at all. The war broke out suddenly, and many talents in Haixian city had just recovered, and they saw that the ancestor of Xuanhuan was unable to resist and was about to be killed soon. Puff. But at this moment, all the monks around Haixian city didn't think of it at all. There was no sign that the silver ancient rune had just been inspired, and a silver light blade with terror power was formed in front of him. The monk has not yet been able to strike the silver light blade, but a flash of blood burst out of his head. Ah! It was just a scream, and the monk's breath was completely cut off. The silver light blade in front of him was out of control. With a loud shot, he shot into the sky and didn't know where to hit it. Oh! Oh! At the same time, the two blue divine lights did not know where to call. One blue light shattered the white light falling in the sky, and the other blue light directly penetrated the black clock outside the first monk who appeared before. At the same time as the sound of Wang broke, a screaming scream was made from inside the clock, and a rain sprayed from below the clock. What happened? All of them are horrified, and all of them can't even feel where these two Saiyan gods come from. The monks who emit these two Saiyan gods outside. Ah! Ah! A horrible scream sounded, but the blue light that didn't know where it came from was still constantly appearing. Poof! Poof! A famous monk could not resist, was directly penetrated, blood splashed above Haixianzong's mountain gate, and flew out. This is the only heart sword. Such a great distance, such a power, is Weizhuo. Impossible, he is still in Tianqian continent, how could it appear here? Two incredulous exclamations sounded in the clouds. Boom! But at this moment, all people finally saw where the blue divine light came from, and in the void on the south side of Haixianzong, a group of sun-like brilliance appeared, two groups of extremely powerful Shenqian breath, shaking the world, like two volcanoes, erupting violently. What? The two monks who ran away in madness in the opposite direction uttered a scream, and were crushed into fly ash by a round of grey meniscus and a huge white mountain. If you have the courage to come, why do you have to run? At the same time as an unspeakable Senleng voice came out, a monk suddenly screamed in one place in the clouds, and the cracked flesh fell from the clouds suddenly. Why saw? It's him, how is he? Everyone's breathing stopped completely, no one doubted again, like the sun rising continuously in the void, the figure like a killing god, already clear, it was Wei in a Tsingyi, surrounded by silver divine light cable. Sushengxiu, Wang Wei, since you are here, should you hide like this? Wei Suo was like a of killing, but came alone, but at this time he looked at the clouds above the sea fairy city, and made such a voice again. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 1090. Chapter 1077, Did it really fall? There are Sushengxiu and Wang Wei among those attacking Haixianzong. Many people couldn't help but take a breath. Did Wei Suo use the means to deal with the sect master Deng Xian again at that time? His real body did not go to the Tianqian continent. Many people have already reacted faintly. Why did Wei Suo appear here now? At the same time, everyone knows that Wei Suo will definitely not talk nonsense. At this moment, among the strong men hidden in the clouds, there must be Su. God Blood and Wang Wei exist. Buzz. No one answered Wei Suo aloud, but there was a vibration of the void. There was a wave of vitality that connected to other spaces oscillated in the clouds. Obviously someone directly launched some kind of magical instrument that crossed the void, and did not directly confront Wei Suo with the enemy. Escape away. Oh. Oh. Two more blue divine lights shot from Wei Suo's hands, and then, a monk screamed from afar, and fell from the clouds. It was a Jindan monk wearing a bronze vest. When Wei Suo made his first self-hearted sword, he began to escape. At this moment, he was at least 800 miles away from Wei Suo, but he still did not escape. Out of Wei Suo's perception, Wei Suo was directly killed by such a long distance. Starting today, Haixian City and Yinzhong Mountain Gate are surrounded by 500 miles, which is classified as a forbidden land. If you fall in it, you will be at your own risk. Wei Suo collected all the monks killed by him, and made such a sound at the same time. Haixianzong returned to calm. It seemed that he had only spoken a few words with him, and the figure of Xuanhuan's ancestor disappeared into Haixianzong's mountain gate. Boom. 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 Wei Suo didn't stay, he just started the whole virtual footwork and left Haixian City. Wei Suo didn't leave Yunling continent at all, only some of his companions rushed to Tianqian continent. He is moving towards the direction of Huangtiandao mountain gate. Is he trying to attack Huangtiandao mountain gate? Wei Suo suddenly appeared in Haixian City, killing a group of monks who wanted to take the opportunity to deal with Haixianzong, and shocked the whole monastic circle again. This news reminded many people that Wei Suo had that peculiar ancient charm in hand. Unless he shot it himself, it would be difficult to determine where his real body was. Moreover, his whole defying step method is fast, and there are many hidden methods. After one shot, it is difficult to judge where he is. What's even more shocking is that after Wei Suo left Haixian City, he used the virtual footwork of the cave to continuously cross the void. The nature of the virtual footwork is his real body, and the direction he travels seems to be the mountain gate orientation of Huangtian Road. What no one knows is that in a cloud, Wei Suo's body flashed brightly, and the sound of Zheng seemed to have a divine iron hair that broke with a burst of strange energy from behind his head. Down. Subsequently, the huge breath on his body quickly disappeared, and the hair that fell behind him immediately turned into a person with the same breath as him, continuing to swoop forward and continue towards the front. The direction of the mountain gate of Emperor's Road. In a mountain range called Tianyao Mountain, which is 60,000 to 70,000 miles away from Emperor Tiandao, a looming glory suddenly fell from the void and fell into one of the valleys. The monk in this glorious figure was burly, more than 40 years old, with purple hair. Although there was no aura on his body, but from the perspective of his power, he was also a Jindan monk. In the valley, there are two extremely old men with extremely gloomy looks. One old man has lost his hair and is wearing a red vestment. The other old man has white hair but shoots two essences in his eyes. Sexual mans. After seeing the monk with purple hair falling down, the old man wearing a red vest immediately took out a pale gold gourd, while another old man immediately took out a piece of ancient pale gold rune. Puff. The two elders each worked out a tactic, and they continued to play red and white brilliance, inspiring pale gold ancient charms. After the pale gold ancient rune was inspired, it formed a peculiar light character, which printed on the pale gold gourd. An unspeakable gas machine immediately emanated from the pale golden gourd. Immediately, the pale golden gourd immediately turned into a pale golden lake with a radius of more than 20 feet, suspended in the void of a person's height. Among them, there are at least dozens of divine patterns flowing, although it is only more than 20 feet, but it gives people the feeling that it is a sea of stormy waves. As soon as this pale gold gourd was completely inspired, the two old men seemed to be aged 2 or 30 years old, and even their backs were completely rickety, sweat beads were dripping from their hair, and the breath on their bodies was extremely shocking. But the two old men still didn't stop, still holding a law in their hands, and the red and white brilliance poured into this pale golden lake. Call out. Without a slight pause, the burly monk with purple hair and a burly figure sacrificed a transparent toad-shaped implement. Coming. As soon as the transparent toad-shaped magic weapon came out, a transparent light curtain was formed in front of the three people. Among the light curtains, Wei Suo was continuing to go crazy. Kill. The two old men were utterly low-pitched. In the pale golden lake, 5 9-inch long and pale golden Taoist princes rushed up, and the brilliance was brilliant. Then the 5 Taoist princes were instantly combined together, a horror, the extreme immortal breath and the huge extreme energy fluctuations instantly oscillated within 1,000 miles. Boom! The whole world seemed to be struck hard. A pale golden world was suppressed from the void, and Wei Suo's body moving forward in the air was instantly smashed into fly ash, and everything became nothingness in the law of countless entanglements. Even the next one, the hundreds of miles of mountains completely disappeared and turned into a huge cave. This is completely equivalent to the power of the true fairy, and even surpassed the blow when the ancient emperor corpse at the time of Yin and Yang grave was full. Huo. As soon as the attack was triggered, the two old men in Tianyao mountain completely lost their strength, and they all gasped and fell directly to the ground. And the middle-aged monk with purple hair suddenly looked ecstatic, a roll of real yuan, quickly rolled up the two old men, and then quickly leaped into the sky. Toward Wei Suo was beaten into the fly, the mountains flew away. When this middle-aged monk rose into the sky, there were some other places in the distance, some hidden and escaped light flew out, all looting toward the place where the shocking blow fell. Wei Suo was killed by Emperor Tiandao 3,000 miles from Tianyao mountain. What? Wei Suo was killed by the Emperor Tiandao with a piece of heritage holy weapon. It's the golden liquid of the immortal emperor of Gao Zhenxian. It is a magic weapon passed down by a true fairy tens of thousands of years ago. An earth-shattering news was soon uploaded on the Yunling continent, and Wei Suo was killed by an inheritance holy weapon on the way to Huangtiandao mountain gate. Wei Suo fell like this. The whole Yunling continent is in an uproar, although the ancient Yuzhen is one of the few true fairies in Yunling continent for tens of thousands of years, and the legacy is powerful. The magic weapon should not have a problem to kill a Shenxian, but this is for all monks. Said, but it was too sudden. Too fast. Many people can't believe it, but this seems to be the truth. Many monks of Huaishan Church and Emperor Tiandao have reappeared outside Haixian city. Boom, a blazing golden light penetrated from the void, and Wang Wei's divine light body also blatantly descended. Laugh. A golden sacred sword was slashed from Wang Wei's Shenguang method, and he was slashed towards the mountain gate of Haixianzong. Click. At the moment, Haixianzong's outer aura mask was not repaired, and was cut by Wang Wu one by one, and the inner aura mask was suddenly broken. Boom. Suddenly, a huge roar came from the gate of Haixianzong mountain. A towering beam of light was like a dragon. From the top of Haixianzong, where the statue of Haixianzi was, it broke out of the earth, and immediately, the entire Haixianzong, the area completely collapsed in more than 200 miles, and the top of the hill where the sea fairy city was located was completely broken. The mountain gate of Haixianzong no longer exists. Many of the Huaishan Church and Emperor Tiandao monks who had planned to plunge into the gate of Haixianzong all stopped in the air. No monk of Haixianzong flew out. Obviously, all the people of Haixianzong had evacuated. The ban on self-destruction was laid. If there are monks who can provide the whereabouts of the ancestors of Xuanhuan and Wei Suo, they will appreciate the 30,000 spirit stone. Wang Wei's Shenguang fashion made such a sound, although he could not receive any damage from Haixianzong. Things, but the destruction of Wei Suo is equivalent to erasing the Haixian sect, but it can set up endless majesty for the emperor. What's going on, but at the same time, the huge white misty mountain among the Huaishan Jiao mountain gate also sent out a tremor at the same time. Boom. Almost at the moment when the overwhelming majority of monks of the heavenly heaven sect stolen from various temples, in the middle of this giant mountain, an ancient temple made of ancient jade in 3 colors of blue, and purple was huge. The power of Li rushed into the air, then broke apart, completely broken, and turned into countless meteors in blue, and purple. Almost at the same time, a layer of looming white divine light that shrouded the whole mountain burst instantly and all disappeared. Hua Tiangu Dian. Someone sneaked into the gate of the mountain and destroyed the Sanking extermination. Hua Tianhu Shanban has also been destroyed. In an instant, countless monks of heavenly teaching either roared anxiously or screamed in horror. This white fog is forbidden to know how to crack it. Since you like white fog, then simply give you a little more at this moment. A cold hum that seemed to be a female voice sounded somewhere, into the ears of many people. Immediately, a thicker piece of white spiritual fog rose, and in the huge mountain where the entire Huishanjiao mountain gate was located, in many places, the white fog was quickly thick and his hands were not visible.